Hey. Hi. That's a nice, precious childhood show you got there. Yeah. It really would be a shame if someone were to make a sequel of it and completely drag it through the mud to the point where you can't watch the original series without having it ruined for you. I cannot believe that I actually have to say this. I really have to say this. Why? What is wrong with you people? And we really can't have one good thing, can we? I have to say this. I have to say this. Why do I have to say this? Y'all are really like this, aren't you? I really have to say it. I have to explain this to you. This really is the worst timeline. Hayao Miyazaki was right. Anime was a mistake. Hello everyone, it's Allie, or maybe Alicia, you can probably just call me Alicia. And I am fucking furious. Why, you ask? Allow me to break it down for you. So, Inuyasha. A beloved childhood anime of mine that I didn't realize was an anime back then, but still enjoyed nonetheless, even though I didn't understand half of it. This series has always been incredibly near and dear to my heart. And if you're here, it might be the same for you. And so, you may have heard of the sequel that was created for it, called Hanyo no Yashahime. Finally got that pronunciation right. Which basically follows the story of Inuyasha and Kagome's daughter Moroha, as well as Shishomaru's daughters, Toa and Setsuna. Now, I personally have not watched Yashahime myself, granted I have seen everything for it on Tumblr, and that's mainly because I don't like sequel series. Oh, it's about the main character's children now? Bye. I primarily dislike them because, for the most part, they're rehashes of what already happened and tend to ruin the entire original story. Suddenly, the characters that you held so near and dear to your heart in the original series are assholes to their kids now. For one reason or another. But that's not what we're here to talk about, oh no. What we're here to talk about is the identity of Toa and Setsuna's mother, which was revealed in the most recent episode, episode 15. Oh my god. For the past 14 episodes, people have been theorizing endlessly on who exactly the mother is, all the way from Kagra to Kikyo. But as it turns out, it's not either of them. Because that would be good writing. No, instead the mother of Toa and Setsuna is Rin. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, in the original series, Rin was a child that constantly followed Shishomaru around after he saved her life. Even though he actually resurrected her more than saved her life, but same thing. She was 8 years old throughout the majority of the series, and was 11 years old at the very end after the 3-year time skip. How long has it been since the ending of the original series? No one knows, apparently not even the writers. But definitely not long enough. Because this is the scene that we got in episode 15. You see that? That is a child. That is a fucking child. Now I have done the calculations. Many of them. And I, being the generous soul that I am, decided to go for the 18-year time skip rather than the 15-year time skip. Primarily because Toa and Setsuna are 15, and them being born a year after the end of the final act. Oh boy. In that situation, they would have been born 4 years after the end of the final act. And Rin would have been 15. You know how old that makes her when they were conceived? 14. I am overflowing with unbridled rage. But that's not even the worst of it, because Sunrise and the show itself acts like this is completely okay. There is nothing wrong with this. At all. And of course the Sessrin shippers are thrilled. Because it may be a literal child giving birth, but hey, at least our ship is canon! And for some reason, some people can't seem to get their heads around the fact that this is not okay. You wouldn't think I would have to say this, but I do. Why? And that's what we're here to talk about today. Get ready, fellas, because this is an unfiltered rant about why Sessrin is gross and awful. Just like a regular rant, Except it's unfiltered. Hey, how many times can I swear on YouTube before the video gets flagged or something? Do you know? Does anybody know? No? Okay. First of all is the obvious. It's pedophilia, Carol. No, you cannot argue with me. It is pedophilia. Rin is a child, and Sesshomaru is a full-grown adult who was also her caretaker throughout the original series, which naturally puts him in a position of power over her, as if the situation wasn't, you know, bad enough. Even if Sesshomaru weren't a 500-year-old demon, it would still be gross because he is clearly an adult. Oh, so you want to make the ambiguous age argument? Sure. Let's talk about that. Sesshomaru is an adult both physically and mentally throughout the original series and throughout this series. Physically, he's about 19 or 20, and mentally, several centuries. Rin, on the other hand, is both physically and mentally a child throughout the original series. She's 8 at the beginning and 11 at the end. Naturally, people have been arguing about what exactly her age is when she has the twins, even though it's clear that she is not an adult, but okay. Sessrin shippers have been saying that Rin is either 16, 17, or 18 going off of Hisui's age by the time she's giving birth. For this, they are saying that he is 6 years old. Okay, so let's look at the kid. He is clearly not a baby, and he is clearly walking, but he's holding Sango's hand for support. And I'm gonna put this as politely as I possibly can. 6-year-olds do not need support to walk. Not usually, anyway. For this, we're going off of the assumption that his development was relatively standard. If he was 6 years old, then yeah, Rin would have been 17 when she had the twins. But he is clearly not. This is a toddler. And toddlers that need the support of holding someone's hand while they're walking are usually anywhere from 11 to 14 months old, maybe even a year and a half. Therefore, this kid is 1, maybe 2, and that's being generous. But you know what? Let's give you the absolute benefit of the doubt and say that he is 3 at the most. And that's being incredibly generous. Rin was 11 when Hisui was born, so if he is 3 here, that means she is 14. But Rin's age is an estimate. Okay, well if you don't want numbers, let's go by appearance. This is Kagome in the original series, even early on in the original series. And in the original series, we know that she is 15. In this anime, this is what a 15-year-old looks like. Now let's take the twins. They are canonically 14. In this anime, this is what a 14-year-old looks like. Now let's look at Rin. You're really gonna tell me that she looks older than Kagome did in the original series? That she looks older than her daughters? Because she looks exactly the same as them. She doesn't even look as old as Kagome was. She looks younger. And that is being generous with Hisui's age. If we go by the assumption that he is 1, maybe even 1.5, that would put Rin at most 13 years old. Why do I have to explain why this is so bad? But the age of consent in Japan is 13. Yes, it is. And that means that a 13-year-old can consent to another 13-year-old, not to a 19-year-old, and definitely not to a 500-year-old demon that has been in a position of power over her since she was a child. A 13-year-old, or possibly in Rin's case, a 14-year-old, cannot consent to an adult. Say it with me. A 14-year-old cannot consent to an adult. I can't believe I have to say this shit. It was the feudal era. It happened all the time. No, it didn't. That primarily happened in noble families, and even then, only in extreme cases. And do you want to know why? Because a 14-year-old girl can very rarely ever carry a baby to term. Either she will die, or the baby will die in the womb, or the baby will be born prematurely and have extreme health conditions that could risk death, or both the baby and her will die. The reproductive system may be ready for a baby, but that doesn't mean the rest of the body is. And that certainly doesn't mean that the mind is either. Oh, come on, Rin wanted this. Did you not hear me say that a 14-year-old can't consent? Because I did say that. You know what else kids her age want? to play, to have fun, to be a child, not to have sex with a man who is way older than her. But of course, that's where the grooming comes in. Sessrin was Rin's caretaker throughout much of the original series. He saved her life and he was a major factor in how she overcame a lot of her trauma. She called him Lord Sessrin the entire time. Probably because that's what Jockin was doing, but he also never told her not to call him that. In this sense, he had power over her, and she trusted him absolutely. What he says must always be right and okay, right? After all, he saved her life and took care of her, so he wouldn't do anything to hurt her, right? That's how child grooming works, and that is clearly displayed in this show. In a positive light, no less. And do I even have to point out, who am I kidding? Of course I have to point it out, that when Sessrin came in after Rin was finished having the twins, that she called him Lord Sessrin. Still, if the fact that she is literally his child bride weren't enough, I would think the clear power imbalance would absolutely seal the deal. But apparently it doesn't for some people. Also, he took the twins away the moment they were born and didn't say a word to Rin. And nobody stopped him. Not even her. Nobody said a thing. What the fuck is wrong with you people? I'm pretty sure I've been talking to a bunch of brick walls this whole time, except for those of you who actually have a sense of reason and common sense. And for those gracious few out there, I'm sure you get my point, and I'm sure that you agree. And while I'm just serving you the tea and you don't have to drink it, you should drink it. I will make you drink it. I just can't believe that I had to explain this. I had to explain why this is fucked up. From here on out, I am advocating for no more prequel stories that ruin the pre-existing story. We have moved past that. We no longer have a need for sequels that ruin the pre-existing story. So stop making them. I am staring directly into Kohei Horikoshi's eyes. If this is the fucking future of Inuyasha, then Naraku should have won. And that's that on that. I was calmer than I expected throughout that. I'm proud of me. Anyway, that was my unfiltered rant about why Sessrin is gross and awful. I'm sure there's so much more I could say, but I think I got my point across pretty well. And yeah, I think this was supposed to be a numbered list, but then that kind of got away from me. Either way, I said what I have to say. In the end, I'm glad I didn't watch this show. I don't want to touch it at all. And also in the end, we can rejoice in the fact that none of it matters. None of it is canon, because there's no manga. It's basically as canon as the movies are, which is not canon at all. OG Sesshomaru remains intact. OG Sesshomaru would never. And with that comforting revelation, I shall leave you off with a question of the week. What was the thing in one anime or TV show that just infuriated you? Besides this one, of course. I'm always down for seeing people go off about media. I mean, why do you think I watch so many Sonic Forces analysis videos? Anyways, guys, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you being here and for having some common fucking sense. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.